Well, good afternoon, and let me thank whoever was responsible for putting the panel together. I'm not sure why I was asked, but I'm Pastor Zion Grove Baptist Church, President of the Concerned Clergy Coalition, and the 5th District City Councilman in Kansas City. And the topic is interesting, but the sad reality is we're here 50 years later still talking about it. I don't know about anybody else on the panel, but I really am tired of talking about what the problem is. I really am hopeful that we'll leave here with some concrete plans of action on what we can do to really impact this issue. I never know what people want when they invite me, whether they want the preacher or the politician. And since I'm not a politician, I just have to be a preacher. And Jesus says, the poor you're going to have with you always. But you shouldn't just get okay with everybody being poor. I really do believe I'm of that camp that believes that everybody was cool with Martin Luther King until he started talking about economic justice. Until he talked about all of us making money and buying houses and sharing the same prosperity in this capitalistic society as other people do. That's when he got killed. And the sad reality is they killed him, and we keep saying they didn't kill the dream, but we still dreaming. If you and I believe the dream has been realized, I'm not sure what society we're living in. So they gave us 5 minutes. I told them they had 3 of mine back.
Go ahead, take it.
So, in my estimation, and when you have panelists, what you end up doing is getting their opinion. I'm not sure if it's calculated or educated, but based on 51 years of living in society, I think we have something to say. That the real fight right now that I think we need to begin grasping with, I don't think anybody would suggest that education is not one of the fights. Because when it comes to education, if you don't educate people, you don't have to worry about them participating in economics because they're not going to get jobs. And the more you learn to educate people, the less you have to provide jobs for them, because a lot of people are not hiring uneducated people. Matter of fact, a high school diploma is not going to be worth much in a few more years. And when people are not educated, they end up not justifiably but doing things that uneducated, unemployed people do, which is commit crimes. The crime and the murder rate that's in Kansas City is just crazy, but nobody's mad about it. I've had, and this is no slight against animal lovers, but we've had the chambers of City Hall filled with animal lovers for fighting about the rights of animals. But I haven't had one time at City Hall filled with people fighting about and arguing about homicides every year, because we just gotten used to it. So part of the solution, I think, is we've got to find a way to get the education system back on the right track. And I'm not sure where everybody is, but the education system itself has been under attack for at least 40 years. What's going on in Kansas City is not anything new. It was going on when I graduated from Central High School in 1980. But what's different now is we used to have a community that cared about everybody.
Thank you.
We used to have teachers that cared about everybody. We used to have, even though we still had what I call less than books and less than materials, we still had teachers that went out and purchased things on their own. I remember going through high school, and I had 2 older brothers, and I'd bring my books home, and they would say, those are the same books we had. And they were 4 and sometimes 8 years older than me. You tell me history in America hadn't changed in 8 years? And certain parts of history just ended when you got to the end of the book, and you knew there was still some more history. And when it comes to our history, let me be selfish real quick, when it comes to Black history, we're not getting any education in the school system. And if you don't know who you are and where you came from, how are you going to have pride in who you are and where you're going? Because if you don't know where you came from, there's a good chance you don't know where you're going. So 3 things. Somebody keeping the time?
You all right.
A more squared event, because they have time to get more squared events. 3 things I want to offer as possible solutions. And let me just speak of the 3 sectors that I have to be intersected in. And I believe these 3 sectors have to learn how to work together. The city, the community, and the church. All of which I think have a role to play in fixing what's wrong. The city has some 3,000 houses that when it comes to economic justice, when you're not a homeowner, that becomes part of the problem. And I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart, so I don't think any of this is by accident. I don't think all the urban schools and all of urban America are going bad by accident. I don't think that's an accident. Because the more they let the schools go down, the more they keep building prisons with a plan that if we don't educate you by third grade, we need to be preparing a jail cell for it. And that's not anything new. It's a known fact that if people don't get educated, if you go to any penitentiary right now, and in the social service field I was in, I used to have to go to the penitentiary. 70–80% of the people that are locked up don't have a high school diploma. There's a direct connection between the lack of education and crime and violence. And if we know that, then why is it taking us 30 years to start talking about changing the education system? Because I don't think it's an accident. I don't think it's an accident. Our communities aren't the same anymore. Most of us don't even know our neighbors. And that's why everybody can call it the hood and get away with it. It's not the neighborhood anymore, it's just the hood. And when you call it the hood, it automatically diminishes the value of the people that are living there. But my mama still lives there. I got brothers and sisters that still live there, 2 blocks away from this church, that still have to stay in this neighborhood and still have to make a living for themselves. Because many people couldn't afford to get out. Let me talk about this misconception that we bought into. And it is what I think Dr. King said, this fear that this integration would destroy us, and I think that's exactly what's happening. You don't have to agree with me, but y'all gave me the mic, so. Success meant in the 70s and 80s, success meant I get a good job, I earn a good wage, and I move out of the neighborhood. Right. And if you're still in the neighborhood, that means you're not successful. And we bought it. And we left the neighborhood, and left all the houses, left all the property, and now that they moved us out, they're going to come right back in and buy the property for cheap for little money. And build houses for we can afford. And before you know it, it ain't going to be all good no more.
No, it's not.
That's not an accident.
No, it's not.
That's not a coincidence. I was in the military for 10 years, in the Air Force, the best branch of the military.
Here we go with that again.
But I got the money, so y'all
Go
The Air Force has a plane which is called AWACS. They have the ability from thousands of miles in the air to see this pen that's sitting on this table right here. And you want to convince me that they couldn't do the same thing and know when there's drugs coming into this country?
Yeah, right.
And you really want me to believe that Oliver North, a lieutenant colonel in the Army, had the power to make the deal to exchange arms for drugs? A lieutenant colonel, if you've been in the military, you know a lieutenant colonel doesn't have that much power.
No, you don't. Nah.
But he took the fall for it, and now he's going to make millions of dollars because he took the fall.
Yeah.
But the drug trade and the drug system in our community is not by accident.
No, it's not.
They started with all the liquor stores on every corner.
Yeah.
Then it became the drug houses. And when people are hurting, all they want to do is stop hurting. So they get high, they get drunk. So, my 5 minutes up yet?
Yeah, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Is it all right if I ask a question?
Yeah.
Dr. King, in his Where Do We Go From Here book, in proposing the Economic Bill of Rights, advocated for a guaranteed annual income based on the median income of the nation. Now, what would you say to that?
I'd say it sounds good. It sounds fair. But when you have private industry that has to buy into it, it's never going to happen.
It should.
Because I'm not suggesting it's not a good idea. I'm suggesting that we've allowed private industry to take over this country so much. They make the rules. There's only so much the city can do with our public projects. There's only so much the city can do with what we control. But if you look at most of the major projects even going on in this community, the city's not doing it. And so if you don't get the J.E. Dunns and the Straubs and the major construction companies and the individuals that are actually building the big buildings and bringing in the big jobs to have a consciousness about giving a fair wage, That's not gonna change, and it's not gonna change as long as we're not organized in what we're asking them to do.
Thank you.
And when we don't organize, and one of the places that still has power to organize is the black church.
Yes, it does.
My last point, and I'm through, I'm close.
Thank you so much.
If the church doesn't wake up and do what no other organization in our community can do, it's not gonna change. And when I say organize, when you talk about organization, you talk about organized people and organized money. And the church is still one of the few
Yeah, it has been.
organizations of the church that in some instances hasn't been taken. That at the end of the day, the black preacher can usually take the mic and say what he feels. And even though he may get judged for it, even though he may have some repercussions for it, he still understands the mandate to speak truth to power and deal with whatever the results may be.
Thank you. Thank you.